fine. Well,
All right, making sure I didn't hit you with my chair.
pull it out. A few inches. Want to do it?
Does it?
Next time.
I pushed, but my chair went backwards.
See, this is Elizabeth, right?
Yes.
She's not here, so I'll leave my coat right there.
Can I call to order this Governance Strategy City Operations Committee, and Beth, would you call the roll for that?
Council Barbell?
Here.
Council DeDominicis?
Here.
Mayor Reed? Here. Council Kelly?
Here.
Council Moore?
Here.
Matt, I wonder if you could give an overview of the requests that you're going to be making to the council today for the various events that are going to be occurring at the Crate Center.
Yeah, would you mind if Justin gave
No,
the
that's fine.
update, he worked more closely with the
Yeah,
contracts?
sure. Yeah.
Hello, everyone.
Hey.
All right. So we are still in indoor soccer season, but we do usually in March and April start our events at the Crate Center. And we are bringing back, to start with, a few regular events that we have every year. The RV and Boat Show, that is going to be going on in mid-March, so that's coming up. The NHLA Home Show, that's going to be the following weekends, I believe the 26th and 27th. Yeah, 27th, 28th. That's held every year. We follow that shortly after with the Spring Builders Auction Show. That's a regular event we have every year. And then we pretty much have a break in action for the summertime. We go back into the action in fall. We have a fall builder show. That's going to be going on in September. We have, for the first time ever, it's called Dig Stock. There is a local company that does metal detecting, and they got a convention last year. They held it at the VFW, and apparently they had a lot more people coming to it than they could actually hold. So they wanted to do it at a bigger event. They like the Crate Center. So that's going to be going on for the first time this year. And then we're bringing back Comic-Con for the fourth time. And the rates did go up a little bit, but they had gone up the year before, so it wasn't a dramatic change. And it was received fairly well overall.
There's a wide variance in the rates for use of
Yes.
the Crate Center
Yes.
across these various groups. Did you get some idea what the,
Yep.
without a lot of detail, but what the broad difference would be?
The main
that
reasoning-
goes from $7,000
Yep.
down to $2,000 approximately, depending on the organization. It's not the organization, it must be what they were using at the Crate Center.
Yeah, it's the details of the event. So if they use, let's say it's during indoor soccer, like the first two events, we have a fee for our guys in recreation and DPW to put the floor covering down. So that's a whole day event. And then picking it back up to put indoor soccer back at the Crate Center. So there's a fee for the floor, a surcharge for the floor itself for any damage that might be incurred. So that's a large majority of the difference. There's the other events don't encapsulate that time frame. So
Okay.
there's no charge for that.
Do most of them use the outside area as well, or?
A lot of them do. They're all using the floor itself, but some of them use the lobby and the bleacher area, so we'll push in the bleachers. They'll take as much space as they can get, all the events.
Outside space?
Sometimes too, yes.
Any other questions?
No, thanks.
All right,
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks, Justin.
Yeah.
I will point out that there are two final events where the contract is still under negotiation. We should have those to the council within the next few weeks.
We have an item to establish an appointment to the Tenant Advisory Committee on this agenda. Mayor, you're probably most knowledgeable about anything with that. Is there anything that you wanted to add on that?
No,
Or
just
just
one
think
person,
we're-
of course, Austin James Welch office to serve, even without being asked. So he's looking forward to serving on that.
Good.
And committee, we had a first meeting the other day and it went very, very well. And the committee asked me to recommend voting for this.
Okay. Other questions? This, the next one is probably yours, Matt, is the economic development grants that are being proposed in here.
Yeah, which ones?
It's item 9
Oh,
on
yeah.
the agenda.
That one I will actually turn over to Ethan since he's been sending to that directly.
Since I can't pass up an opportunity to come up here. I'll keep this one briefer than last time. So in October, we opened up the DGP with more funding for applicants for projects that involve food access or creating a downtown destination. As you know, as a council, you awarded the farmers market, which was a city application. That didn't have to go through the same review process as this because it was a city application, went through approval from the common council. We did receive 6 other applications. They went through the review process of 5 individuals of the public from various backgrounds, from banking to food, just to cover a list that was part of the DGP process. They gave their scores. Those were averaged and reviewed. They were put in, and then four of the projects were ranked high enough to make it to considered for funding. Unfortunately, we had $208,000 to award, so that could only fully award 2 projects, which are listed, which is the 14 Market Street from Sean, and then 14, which is also SIP. So those were separate applications. There are some layover. They had some similarities. 14, for the general 14 Market Street, it's to renovate the commercial space that was formerly held by 518, and that's going to turn into a banquet / open air cafe where events can be held and other food related events. Also, they are going to update the facade of the building and the interior, which will improve, obviously, the look, and the inside will be more of a indoor street kind of appearance is the goal for all the, I think he has six or so different commercial tenants in there, and each will have its own different little facade, so it'll look more like a street. 14 SIP application is to take a storage space they have, renovate that, and turn that into a brewery, as well as some other updates to their commercial area. So those were the 2 highest ranked by the review committee, and that's why I recommended those forward to the council.
Who's on that committee?
That was 5 members. There was Kent Bacchus from Community Bank, Elizabeth Gent, she works in real estate and is part of the zoning board. You had Ryan, I can never pronounce his last name correctly, but Demers, he's the manager of the food co-op. You have Derek Rosenbaum, who's an appraiser and also on the planning board. And you also have Mandy Snay, who is part of the Clinton County Health Association.
Great. Thank you.
And is that the end of the funding you said?
For now.
For now,
yes.
yeah.
So obviously, like I said, there are some layovers between the 2 projects. As like if they go forward and they determine they can share some costs, and there's anything more available, we can go back out to bid or drop it down on that list that we did receive. So
Nice, thanks.
Is there, if you were thinking about, you said you had 4 projects that you actually rated
Yep.
fairly well. These were the top 2.
Yep.
Do you have some sense of, without going into a lot of detail again, what what were the other two projects like?
The other two projects, one was 124 Margaret Street, which is right over there in front of the county building, and that was to renovate the commercial space. I believe Mama J's was previously at that location. It was for the renovation of that commercial space.
The old Carver's restaurant?
I believe so, yes. And then you have, it was the Pepper also applied, and that was to improve facade and physical access to the building.
Great, thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, thanks.
Anything else?
I think that concludes kind of what the agenda that will be moved forward to the full council meeting. Is there any old business that needs to be brought up today? New business? Oh, you moved them to the council first? Okay. Well, now make a motion to move items 1 through 9
Ten.
to the council agenda.
10, there's a John Ruff. And 10, 1 through 10.
1 through, I got 9 on mine.
Did you bring one?
Yeah.
Did you bring yours from home?
Yeah, I brought mine from home.
Here, that's number 2.
Oh, okay, 1 through 10. Well, maybe we should have John come up and tell us a little bit about what this is about. Sorry. Was using my home.
My feelings were gonna be hurt, but I didn't get asked to speak.
The wish came true. So, we have a contract that's been awarded for upgrading the combined sewer overflows out at the Cumberland Avenue pump station. And the contractor's gearing up to be on site next week to start, and they need to implement a partial road closure of Cumberland Ave. It's gonna be from just south of the truck entrance to GP, down to just south of the pump station. So it's not gonna impact any trucks or anything going in and out of GP. It's not gonna impact anybody going to Wilcox Dock. There's gonna be trucks going in and out and all that. If emergency vehicles do need to pass through, there's gonna be room for them. But technically, it's a road closure with a detour. So we're asking that that closure be authorized so that we can get this work done. So, pretty straightforward.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Sorry
Thank you.
about using my home sample. So I will now make a motion to move items 1 through 10 to the council agenda.
Second.
Council Bargo?
Yes.
Council Diamanigas?
Yes.
Mayor Reed?
Okay, now I'll go with, I assume there's no old business since we asked that and nobody had any. Is there any new business? I wanted to raise one issue. As we talked, Councilor Diamanigas and I met with Matt and Melena to talk about the strategic plan and the comp plan. And I would make a request to the mayor to create a subcommittee to work together between the strategic and comp plan to ensure that we have the right integration and coordination between those two plans. And I would like to suggest that Paul, Councilor Diamanigas and myself be on that committee, along with Melena and Matt, and then to select, I don't know who the other right people might be. If you wanted some other additional people, we can work that out through the mayor to figure out who should be on that committee.
So presumably a committee very much like the livable communities committee
Yes,
and ad hoc
that'd be
committee.
short term.
Short term.
Yes.
So it's an ad hoc committee, and any subcommittee of the council is subject to the open meetings law, just so you're aware that with the public and subject to notification and every minutes and everything else. And typically, it's better if we have a resolution establishing it so that there's clarity and guidance with how the committee would operate.
So we'll put that together over next week.
Yes, we can put the resolution together and take care of it in the next meeting.
Okay, thank you.
Any other business?
Did you want to start off with the reports?
Well, I have one more thing I wanted to just, as an aside, since Justin is here and Matt, to begin to take a look at the recreation department. That there is when the last budget process, there was a request from the council, I think, to create a long-term plan for the recreation department. And I would like you to take a look at that with Ted and Justin, and perhaps a week from now or so, we could get some sense of where that is anyway, in terms of, is it beginning? If not, you know, let's have a conversation about what that ought to look like and where it goes.
Was that the long-term plan relating to the capital plan for recreation, building improvements? or
I
was it
think
a
that was
broader
a part
scope?
of it, but I think it should be a little bit broader in terms of what, you know, where we're going with the various recreation programs and you know, what's the thinking about longer term of outcomes and objectives on those programs.
Sure.
Thanks.
Also, somebody like that, can you meet us with the status of the RFP for the marina?
Yeah, the,
Come forward.
about a month and a half ago, I'll say, the city released an RFP essentially soliciting operators to manage the city marina for the 2020 season. We received one proposal in response from the Plattsburgh Boat Basin. We had a meeting with representatives from the Boat Basin about the details of their proposal. We asked them to go back and come up with some additional information. They provided that information a few days ago. We're currently taking a closer look at that to see what type of financial situation that would leave the city in at the end of the season. And we're comparing that situation to what the city could reasonably expect to realize if we ran a very lean operation but continued to have the city manage the marina, just for a basis of comparison for the council. If the council continues to want to have an outside manager down there, that's certainly the direction we'll go. But we wanted to provide you just something for comparison before you make a final decision.
Great.
Thanks.
Yep.
Okay, could I have a motion to adjourn? Or I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Counselor Bardell?
Yes.
Counselor DeDominicis?
Yes.
Mayor Reed?
Yes. Next part of our agenda today is a work session to discuss items on the agenda tonight, but also any presentations and visitors that may be here tonight.
Yeah, the first presentation that we'll have is from Emily Gardner from Saratoga Associates, and this will be the finalized plans for improvements to the Arts Park or West Elcom Park, which we hope to start as soon as the weather permits in the spring. Emily? Actually, yeah. Yes.
Yeah, at least this time I made sure it was a PowerPoint purpose, so I didn't have to scroll.
Thanks.
So if anyone had attended the planning board meeting, this will look a little bit familiar. But, so I wanted to give an overview and an update, a little brief recap of the process for our plans for the park. Location quickly, the goals that we had and how we got to the design. And I'll go over the design and be open to any comments. So for anyone who's not familiar, we're looking at the space between Market and Durkee Street, which is currently quite underutilized. And it is made up of a few different parcels. And something that has come up as a question before is the status of the deck and the ramp that are alongside the West Elcom building. It does provide egress for that building, but it is within the park space. So currently there is a walkway, there are a couple of concrete pads and some parking space. Our goals for this area were to really work on making it part of an arts corridor. So improving connectivity between Margaret and Durkee Streets, trying to bring some sculpture elements into the park. increase pedestrian access, so it could eventually have kind of a corridor from the Strand, through this space down towards the riverfront. Some of the improvements, that were desired during public meetings, we did a lot of public feedback in the survey. So there were some requests for shaded seating, some type of water feature or a playground if possible, improvements to landscaping and bringing in public art. So as a result of that, this was an early concept rendering. We have stayed pretty true to this design. 3 main levels within the park, a little bit more formal toward Turkey Street, with some sculpture and landscaping. The central space having a water feature, and the upper space along Margaret Street having a plaza and some shaded picnic tables. These were some of the early ideas that came just before that. If you were at the open house we had during the summer, you may have seen these before. We started out looking at whether it's possible to have a performance space here, and maybe some space for food trucks or vendors. But during some later conversations and meetings, it was determined that this might be too small and too tight of a space to function well as a performance space. The other option that we had looked into was a little bit of different shape, having a rounded plaza, a larger splash pad maybe, and some sculptures just along the side. Really decided to make this more improving connectivity through the entire park space. So that's how we got to the design we have now. So the design would be removing the ramp that's there in order to replace that with a walkway, so no longer actually a ramp, and would be ADA compliant with plantings all through that area, and a bike rack at both the top and the bottom of the park. You see the paver patio there with landscaping around, a water feature which would also have lighting integrated, and it could be programmed or scheduled to change. And then that's sort of the central space, and then that leads down to the more formal sculpture garden type space. And the deck and the ramp we are looking to keep in place as they do provide egress for the building. Brief overview of the plan. As we look to create this, we'll be removing the concrete and the ramp that are currently in the park and the other asphalt pavement. There is also, may not know, there is a very old brick sanitary line that runs through. It's about 100 years old. So we will be replacing that with a new sewer line. So again, the plan, so also along the Maui North building and up to food pantry access, there is vehicular access that's granted there through an easement, so that would remain. We'll try to maintain access to that as much as possible during construction. We've spoken to the owner there. And there will be 2 cuts in the roadways just for the sewer line replacement. Other than that, we think that the disturbance should be pretty minimal. In terms of grading, I mentioned there are kind of 3 overall levels, with the plaza being up at the Margaret Street level, the water feature and lawn space in the center being sort of an intermediate level, and then the sculpture garden area being the lowest level. There will be ADA access throughout the whole space. Someone could come, if they're coming up from Durkee Street, through the northern part, if they're successful here to get to this entire space, or they can come in through here, get to the water feature, and also through this space as well. And again, this walkway would provide access up to the upper space, and then the plaza is easily accessible from Margaret Street. In terms of plantings, you might have noticed in the plan view there are a lot of plants. We're looking to include things that are very low maintenance, very cold tolerant, also salt tolerant for any winter maintenance concerns, and then trying to include year-round interests. So I did put together some slides of the plants we're looking to include. So spring flowering trees, things with interesting bark or interesting texture, fall color as well. Including flowers, and even the dogwood give a pop of color during days like today when it's kind of gray and wintry out. And then some grasses and other flowers that really don't require any maintenance, but bringing in some color. And then just a brief recap of the utilities. So we are looking at the new sanitary line here, connecting to existing manholes on both Margaret and Durkee. We would be connecting to stormwater existing catch basins on both streets as well. DPW there any concerns with any of that. There seems to be sufficient capacity. And then we bring in water from Durkee Street to supply drinking fountain that's located here and also the water feature. We'd be adding some new lighting to the park as well, accenting the different sculpture locations so they can be lit. The lighting I mentioned integrated into the splash pad, and a couple of new poles to make sure there's good visibility through the park. Here's just a concept view of what the splash pad can be like. You can see the kid here is activating it with a bollard. We're actually looking to do a foot activated. It probably wouldn't look much bigger than this light fixture. That way there's nothing protruding. An option for the lighting, the lights I believe can be red, green, blue, or white. And in terms of the timeline, so we're here now, we're gonna incorporate any updates and finalize our documents for construction so that we can get it out to bid within the next couple of weeks and start construction this summer. Opportunity for any comments or questions or concerns? Yeah.
I do. The street light that controls that, there doesn't appear to be believe there's a crosswalk now that goes from this park over to where the art center is. And
There's
the
not.
the crosswalk is on the other end over by the bank.
Yes.
And, it seems to me there would have to be a cut in the curb for ADA compliance, but to create some kind of a crosswalk there that DPW may take care of or whatever, I don't know who does that, but it seems like we would want something that would connect right with that ADA compliance walkway that comes up as close as possible to the street light to provide access across to the art center.
That's something that we can certainly take a look at. I don't know if we discussed that in any detail as part of this project.
No, we stayed, so just the way that the funding was, this project is funded from the streetscape funds of the DRI. And there was specific mention of of renovating this park, so we focused on the park space itself.
No,
But I
absolutely
totally
love it,
understand
what you're doing.
the interest in the connection.
Perhaps there's some way that DPW could assist in,
Mhm.
it's just striping the road and then making sure you've got curb cuts in there too.
Yeah, no, increasing pedestrian connectivity in and out of the park, that
Right.
would certainly.
That's what I was thinking, more
Yep.
than Saratoga or something taking that on as part of the project.
Sure. Yeah, we definitely think
We could explore that anyway.
And to what extent is this Arts Park and Arts Walk then connecting to the Greenway? They'll bring people down to the river. I know in your bigger diagram, you actually got how it fits into other things too, but maybe you can discuss that.
Yeah,
a bit.
so the plan is for there to be a crosswalk. The existing one is here, but with the anticipated plan for the development here, they would have their connection right here, so we would actually be able to have a nice crosswalk straight through. And then they have the plan for the pathway through connecting to the Riverwalk, so there would be a nice continuous connection there. And then the plan, the idea for the Riverwalk is that there will also be a new crosswalk added to connect over to McDonough.
If I recall, when they were talking about the plan for the connector from your Arts Walk to the river, they were talking about shrubbery and concrete that kind of, or surrounding features that kind of blend all in and make it look like really nicely integrated.
Yeah, we've shared our planting plan and plant list with them, so they're trying to complement as best they can what we're doing, even though they might have a little more shade, but.
So you'll see a similar structure of shrubbery and trees from the Arts Park all the way down to the river.
Yeah, real nice, consistent look and feel all the way down.
And actually also in the Arnie Pavone lot as well, because they coordinated too.
We got to lead the way.
Very exciting, thank you.
Thank you.
A lot of people are very excited about the splash pad kind of concepts. that
Yeah,
are going
yeah.
into this too, I know.
Looking forward to it. It's kind of a, low maintenance, but high impact.
Any other questions or comments from the council?
No, thank you.
Next, I'll introduce Mike Kuhn from ADA. ADA is the city's consulting engineer for both the Arnie Pavone lot and also the Broad Street parking lot expansion. Which is where you can go in, Mike.
And since it ties in best with the Arts Park, we'll start with the Arnie Pavone lot. So as you're probably well aware, this is slated to go in the former Glens Falls National Bank site. Once the demolition is complete of the existing buildings, this is the general rendering of what the parking lot and adjoining sidewalks and green spaces will look like. We have 103 parking spaces, including 5 handicap accessible parking spaces. The current Division Street will be incorporated into the parking facility. We will maintain access in an egress fashion for the adjacent community bank. And then we'll have 2 connections on Margaret Street that will be both entry and exit. And then on Oak Street, we will have an exit only. As it's one way, it'll be a right-hand turn exit only. We've generally incorporated several meetings with DPW and MLD regarding utilities. We are gonna be able to fix a few ills of the past in that there is a combined sewer that goes down Division Street that picks up much of the drainage from the current site. So we can disconnect that from the sanitary system and redirect all of the stormwater runoff to the existing storm drain system on Margaret Street. And then with the existing electrical service feeding the Glens Falls National Bank building, with PMLD's assistance, we can use that to serve the new parking lot, which will include just general site lighting, which we've specified the same exact light fixtures that are currently across Margaret Street. So the lighting will be consistent with the neighborhood. And then also in the center Green Island, there will be an electrical load center where PMLD can route power to some EV car charging stations. So as of right now, we have a designated 2 spots for EV car charging stations adjacent to the Green Island, but we envision there's plenty of room and ability to expand that in the future as the necessity comes forward. The yellow hatching would be new concrete sidewalks. On the Oak Street side, the majority of the sidewalk work there will be to close off the former Division Street pavement and connect the sidewalk from the St. John's property frontage to the north. And then in regards to that, there is one coordination that Matt's been helping with in terms of part of that sidewalk exists today on the church's property. So we're working with the church on an easement so that the city, as part of the project, can access and replace a sloped section of concrete sidewalk with a level section of concrete sidewalk. And then similarly on the community bank side, the widened sidewalk adjacent to the handicap accessible spaces will provide the access aisles for people entering and exiting their vehicles. And to create the width required for ADA requirements, we're proposing to encroach further onto the community bank's parcel. The existing sidewalk's about halfway on Division Street, halfway on the bank's parcel. So the expansion would happen towards the bank side, and that again is being coordinated by easement with the bank. So that covers lighting, utilities. We will be milling and top coating the existing paved areas. So on the Oak Street side, much of that is a current parking lot, although smaller in width as we expanded onto Division Street. We'll mill the existing paved surface. So in essence, when the contractor's done on the site and they do the final top paving, it'll be a consistent, the entire parking lot will look brand new. It won't be a patch of existing and old and new. So that's generally the project. If you have any questions, I'd be more than happy to answer. We did go to the planning board last week as an advisory council role. They offered minimum feedback on this. They were generally happy with it. They asked the question about could we expand additional EV charging stations in the future. Other than that, they had little feedback. So we've got a full construction plan set. We're working on specifications and we'll be ready to go out to bid as soon as we address any of your questions and concerns and continue to work with Matt's office.
So, a question for you. The green areas on your map are all grass and trees, is that,
Yes.
is that right?
So I can. Somewhere in- There we go. So the green areas are not intended to be grass, which would take maintenance. Thanks to Emily, we've used the same trees and shrubs that will be in the arts park, so it'll have a contiguous look to it.
So you agree with the assessment of plants and the plants they recommend, you're okay with them?
Yep, yep, absolutely. It was a
Okay.
very nice layout across the street, so we've incorporated some there.
Yeah, that'll be really nice.
And on the south end of the lot, the south side of the lot anyway, that abuts probably St. John's, I would assume.
Yep.
Is that plants along there, or is what separates this parking lot from the St. John's parking lot?
So we will maintain the existing sidewalk and curb that borders Division Street from the St. John's parking lot. So that's essentially all along here. We're gonna maintain the existing curb line. As this isn't yellow, that's, it's hatched out to represent the existing curb and sidewalk. So the existing boundary between St. John's and the new parking lot will exist just as it does today with Division Street. So we'll have full sidewalk connection from the new sidewalk on the Margaret Street side straight through to Oak Street.
So we got sidewalk separation between the two.
Right.
When do you anticipate this will begin?
We'll probably, if we're looking at a 3-week bid process, we could probably go out to bid with the documents in, say, 2 weeks. So really, you probably don't want to do any of this work before middle of April anyway, so we're probably lining up for the end of April, beginning of May type of construction season. Although, well, I should back off on that. The demolition of the existing buildings will be the
Sort of
the starting
dictate what
point.
happens,
Yeah.
or when the next step happens?
Yeah, so I guess my first answer was better suited for the Broad Street lot. This lot is gonna be predicated by the demolition process, which the contractor's already awarded, correct?
Yeah, they've started abatement work about a week and a half ago, based on the completion schedule that they included in their proposal. It was 30 days for the abatement work, 30 days for the demolition work, so we're looking at mid to late April, finishing up with the demolition work just in time for work on the new lot to start.
So is your plan to go out to bid while the demolition is happening?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, we've broken out in the documents, like the demo plan, for example, what's not in scope and what is in scope.
Is there any opportunity to work with our DPW? You know, they do a lot of their road work themselves, and they hire out the actual team for the asphalt and the milling. But we do an awful, a couple miles of road per year with them.
Right.
Maybe a good raise in the asphalt plant, all that kind of stuff. Do you see any economies of scale working some of it in-house and then also presumably with the Broad Street lot?
There very well can be. We haven't really talked in nuts and bolts in terms of the bidding process with DPW. Another option, even if it's not without their manpower, using the state contract pricing associated with the city's agreements with the paving company, the asphalt company. So we'll have to work through that.
I recall the county was willing to potentially help out on the paving work too, so we'll have that discussion. Just so you know, what is paying for this parking lot and some of the other parking adjustments we're doing to ensure that there's that one-to-one replacement of spaces gained versus spaces lost. We have a grant from the Financial Restructuring Board to pay for. We didn't at first think it would be quite enough to pay for everything, so we're looking for other grant sources. But Matt's group did such a good job in attracting a contractor for demolition work that those savings may allow us to do everything with that grant. So we don't anticipate
like to move on to Broad Street
Sure,
or any more?
yeah.
So the Broad Street parking lot's a little more simpler of a process. The existing lot, as you can somewhat see up here, it exists to this point right here. And then there is a existing paved pathway and a small gully right here. And then the bank of the Saranac River is represented by this blue line right there. So in large part, the project is just to resurface the existing parking lot and then add on the paved area on this portion, which really won't go much further towards the riverbank than that existing paved walkway. So it's not really changing the terrain. We're not looking at filling it very much or altering it. We did obtain a New York State DEC permit for stream bank disturbance, which was really limited to the existing outfall of the culvert pipe underneath that walkway. We'll essentially level it off, eliminate the culvert pipe, which is a benefit in the long run in that now there won't be a point source into the river. It'll be distributed over the length of or the width of the parking lot and a curve along the trailing edge. Again, lighting, we're gonna match the existing light fixtures, the antique style light fixtures that are in the parking lot. We're looking at 2 new ones for security and parking safety. A new one would go right there, and a new one would go right here. We are proposing a few shrubs and trees along the right-of-way with Broad Street, just to soften the view of the parking area. As it exists today, there's maybe 2 or 3 existing small trees, so we'll add some shrubs and replicate that. We have coordinated with the Saranac River Trail, the next phase that would bring in the footbridge across. And rather than having them stripe this small part as part of their project, we've gone ahead and incorporated that into our project. So this will include the bike lane striping on each side of the road per the Saranac River Trail documents, a new stop bar, a new crosswalk. There currently is not one striped between across the Division Street. And then the sidewalk in this area of the existing transformers in a bit of disrepair. It's not as much of a long-term condition as you might want. So we've also included upgrading that with an accessible curb ramp for people crossing over Division Street. So this currently, the layout has 59 parking spaces. With this and the new striping, it'll be up to 80, so we'll gain 21 parking spaces. One thing I failed to mention on the Margaret Street side, but it applies to that project also, is we've included here a curb section and bollards for future parking meters. We've worked with the Community Development Office to get an idea of what those equipment might be and sized essentially just a curved island with bollard protection for future mounting of those. It's my understanding they'll be solar powered, so we're not running conduits or electrical connections for those. Similarly on Margaret Street, we're providing 2 areas for parking meter kiosks, one on the Margaret Street side and then one on the Oak Street side.
And that's of course to add versatility, because no decision is made on that.
Right.
This is a pretty small lot. I think it came up in discussion earlier this week. You went there, but does a small lot really need 2 lanes in each direction? Couldn't we navigate with just 1 lane, kind of doing a loop through the lot, and that will open up some of your parallel parking on the south end to be diagonal parking?
I know we looked. I'm trying to remember. We workshopped a whole bunch of different arrangements. I believe we looked at that. One thing with diagonal parking is you don't get as many spaces as you do with perpendicular in the same amount of area. So I think we looked at going through the parking lot one way and having diagonal in place of the perpendicular spaces, and we didn't achieve as many spaces as we have now. Now, if we were to go one way and try and do diagonal in place of the parallel, the one problem is even if it's one way, you still need roughly that 24-foot aisle width to maneuver in and out of the perpendicular parking spaces, so.
You wouldn't need it on the other side though, right? Or would you?
You would on the Broad Street side if that remained as perpendicular. So even if it was one way, the most you really want to shrink that down to is about 22 feet for the maneuvering. So I can go back and look and see where those concepts were when we workshopped them. But I think after working at a bunch of concepts, this was the best way to maximize it.
Could you talk a little bit about the Saranac Lake Bank? You said there's a path or something that's along there?
Currently, let's see if I can scroll this. Here. So there's a paved walkway right there. And so that will be eliminated and the paved parking will essentially come to about the same distance towards the river. So it's really a path just from one point of the parking lot to another. It doesn't connect elsewhere.
Will that leave any space at all between the path and the bank for if you wanted a bench or anything like that eventually put there? Is there still space
Sure.
at the top of that bank?
Yep,
Is
at
that
the
green space to be able to do that?
Yeah, at the closest point right here, we're about 13 feet from the curb to the top of the bank. So over here, it widens out to 20, 25 feet.
That's great.
And it's relatively flat. It doesn't get steep until the blue line. So there certainly could be benches or picnic tables put there in the future.
I seem to recall somebody mentioning walking, probably it was Patrick, walking dogs, and they'll walk down there, sit down with on the bench, and that would still leave some open space, so we're not gonna tarmac right up to the edge of the bank anyway.
Right.
Great,
We
thank
haven't
you.
put out, as you know, the Saranac River Trail has the opportunity to go across Broad Street and then down Broad Street around the ICD building and get to the Saranac River a lot earlier than going all the way into the new prime development and turning right there. So there's talk about whether we could actually at some point route the Saranac River Trail all along the river underneath the Kennedy Bridge there too. And that's not right in the works right now, but at some point in the future, it may be, it would require us to put a new concrete tunnel in through there. But if we could really keep people on the Saranac River as close to the river as possible and not on roadways and your cars, et cetera, would be really desirable. And that even the minimum 13-foot width is about standard for the river walk for a lot of the lengths of it. And I think on the other side is 14-foot width.
Yeah, the minimum width of the path you need per DOT standards for mixed use, bicycles and pedestrians is 10 feet, so there will be room.
So that's great. So you may end up having a lot more flow of pedestrians down there eventually than there is right now.
And Matt did organize meetings with NICEAG regarding the ongoing and future phases of the river cleanup. So there's 2 monitoring wells within this parking lot. We've coordinated with Arcadis, the consultant for the NICEAG project. So those are being upgraded actually at the moment, and then the paving will work around the new monitoring well caps.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Nice idea.
Any other presentations you'd like to do at this time?
No, I think that's it for today.
Okay. This gives us about 8 or 9 minutes. If you'd like to have any additional discussion on items on the agenda, I know you broached a lot of them during your committee meeting already.
Yeah.
If there's no other, would you like to take a 8-minute recess and we'll begin at 5:30 then?
Sounds good.
Oh yeah, how about if we do report before?
Oh, sure.
You got your usual routine report. How about governance strategy and city operation, Councilor Barbell?
I think we just covered our report, and it's it for me.
Infrastructure, Councilor Moore?
I didn't have anything at this time other than
I noticed the MLDs going around, shredding up branches, picking up the remains of the winter. Hopefully, spring is here. That's all I had.
Finance and budget, Councilor Kelly.
Just wanted to note that I attended the department head meeting today, and Mr. Marks gave us a thorough explanation of our year-to-date finance, and the rec department in particular looks really good. The collection for you know, your various fees is way up over last year, so that's a great sign. And the amount of money that's coming from the general fund to the rec complex fund is reduced quite a bit, as you might expect, so that's looking pretty good. We'll know more about it in more, you know, additional months, but we're off to a good start.
Public safety, Councilor Barba, you represent Councilor Cruz?
I think, I don't think there's any additional report over the report that was provided at the last council meeting. So.
Plattsburgh Public Library, Councilor Leonis.
Nothing new at this time.
And I know the board president, I do think that, Councilor Carr's not here, but I think the only action I can think of is an offer through our IEP, equipment subsidization or incentive program, energy incentive program, to assist the school district in, some fixtures for their lighting that are new, high efficient fixtures. These are just preliminary meetings, so that our council meeting actually begins in a few moments. So, then you want our signature. Okay, but the common, this is for your class. So the common council actually hasn't met, some common council meetings, right? So we'll meet in a few minutes, it'll only take you 20 minutes to slow it. This year, what we witnessed wasn't a council meeting, it was the week. I made more right. Mackenzie, you have a chance to get together with Matt, questions you have, like volleyball, basketball, shakers.
I haven't heard back yet, so that's okay.
You ready?
Yeah, I'm all right. I'm gonna drop down to the
What's the fastest marathon you've run?
It's called the work session. As they prepare for the council meeting next week, it's quite a bit shorter. Okay, normally when they get a signature, they're waiting for the council to say. I'll sign it if you want, didn't want to advertise that you witnessed a common council meeting and have it. Where do you want me to sign that?
Because he was on the Syracuse National Championship team. Yeah, he apparently said, he goes like one. Super fast, very, very fast. And he's flying, I guess he's at 13.
Same thing?
It was like something happened. So he hurt his foot, he kept going for 7 miles. So he was like, he still ran, he would have been on pace for still. I don't know, so you just go out and see if you have it.
Take care.
You got it, Eric.
Nice, that's good. A little skate sweat, Achilles.
They play for like 3 hours.
It's good cross training. Surprised
Thank you. You're welcome.
Good being around the border. To be honest, or at least that, you think we could retire.
How are you?
So do you know David?
Very, like, a little bit. We've talked, we met a couple times, so we're friendly, we see each other. He's a nice guy. He's a student down in Albany, and he's also so professional too. He's on a running team based in Syracuse. And he gets not a ton of money, but I think enough to pay for this and that. He gets like a coach and all the other equipment and all that. So, not a glorious professional unless you're one of the top people. It's about chasing the dream for a little longer. So I think he's practices all the
My brother and I were, this girl babysitting, she was the number one two mile in New York City. Went to University of Colorado.
wait a little.
I know. Nice to see you. Take care. It's a good thing I said no.
Let's do the indoor race and have that massive regard.
I'll be right back. Were you standing next to your son's president?
Briefly, yes.
Run away.
Yeah, she got had a
And you?
Yes. And it's very, very
This is very mirrored.
okay. I'm sure you love it. No,
There's 100 pages. So, not.
No, I have to stop.
I think right now, enjoy your day.
You're all right. He said we're
You
gonna.
can't get away, guys. You're right, you can get away. He's just like laying down.
It's a different, like, you think, oh, I'm gonna go away. I just gotta make it far enough.
So,
It's a straight race, you know.
to confirm, he did go skiing today.
Well, I figured you.
He's just here, he's here.
Just crossed him off on my. I didn't think he was a
Time to go home.
skier.
Not yet, no.
I thought that was a joke.
I think so. It seems pretty straightforward tonight. How did you think that? I have to go to a band concert, so both of my kids are in the high school band.
My legs are telling me I'm not a skier, so.
We'll definitely be out of here before 6.
Goddamn.
I thought so once I saw everything.
Have time to.
Did you have to get an extra pen for me, my man?
Just hoping for dinner. I brought a little bag of popcorn just in case.
I used to snowboard back in the day. Why do I have two of these?
You took mine? Nope, you didn't. Sorry, didn't mean to.
How dare you say? Who are we missing?
Elizabeth.
Right, we're missing Mike. Well, I knew we were missing Elizabeth. And Ira.
Okay.
Oh, Mike's right there.
Skiing took a lot out of you today.
These old people all look alike. You know?
Let's begin our common council meeting tonight with a pledge of allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call, please.
Mayor Reed, Councilor Barbell,
Here.
Councilor Kelly,
Here.
Councilor Gibbs, Councilor DeDominicis,
Here.
Councilor McFarland,
Here.
Councilor Moore,
Here,
Earlier this afternoon, we had a brief press conference about the coronavirus and a response from the city to deal with it. Might as well, while I'm at it, let you know a few things. First of all, this is very similar to the flu, but we don't have this sort of built-in immunities over the years, so it's actually mortality rate from the flu, about twice the rate, especially those people that are comprised or compromised respiratory systems. And it spreads at about twice the rate of the flu as well. And why that concerns us in the city is we have an awful lot of elderly people that live here and people in nursing homes, and we really want to try to protect that population as best we can. So we're developing an emergency plan, but working with the Department of Health at the county to make sure that we're putting out best practices and good information. So it was a very good press conference. The individual that helped us, straight from the Clinton County Health Department, answered an awful lot of the questions that the media had pent up. Because there has been a lot of dialogue on how individual communities respond to it. One other piece of information you should know, this is going to probably come and go in seasonal waves in the future, just like different flu varieties. We will build up communities. We will have immunizations in the future. They're working to invest record sums into trying to get immunizations early as they can. So this will probably be with us seasonally for the foreseeable future. There's no cases that are known in Clinton County yet, or in the city. The closest cases in New York State are primarily in the New York City area, only as high as Westchester County. But there are also cases in Montreal, and given our proximity to Canada, we believe that if there is a county where it could come down from Canada, it would probably be one of the first ones. So we remain vigilant on it. We've got the protocol with the fire department as first responders on this, and we just want to let the community know that there are plans, that we're working on them, that there's no reason to panic at all in any way. We need to adjust some of the ways we do things, especially in encouraging our employees to not come to work, so to truly use that sick leave benefit as something that's designed to benefit all the fellow employees at work. And you may have heard from the media that only a minority of the people actually have the virus have strong enough symptoms for them to know that they have the virus. Only about 20% of people who have the virus require any medical intervention. So there could be a lot more carriers than seems obvious at the time. So I think information is important at this point. I don't think there's any reason to be particularly concerned, but just be mindful of this, and we'll obviously stay on and keep you all well informed. Thank you.
Resolved that the minutes of the regular meeting of the Common Council held on February 27, 2020 are approved and placed on file among the public records of the city clerk's office.
Moved by Councilor Dominicus, and seconded by Councilor Barbell. Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passed.
Resolved that the payrolls of the various departments of the city of Plattsburgh for the week ending March 4th, 2020 in the amount of $58,565.84 are authorized and allowed, and the mayor and the city clerk are hereby empowered and directed to sign warrants drawn on the city chamberlain for the payment thereof.
Moved by Councilor Kelly, seconded by Councilor Barbell. All in favor?
Aye.
Sorry, discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passed. You've got your routine reports, and we also had you offer committee reports a moment ago. Are there any additional reports that you'd like to offer this time? Being none, resolved that reports as moved by order to receive any written reports are placed on file among the public record with the equal moved by Councilor Dominicus and seconded by Councilor Barbell. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passed. No correspondence to the recommendation of the boards at this time, please continue.
Resolved that the bills audited by the Common Council for the week ending March 6, 2020 in the amount of $825,678.37 are authorized and allowed, and the mayor and the city clerk are hereby authorized and directed to sign warrants drawn on the city chamberlain for the payment thereof.
Moved by Councilor Moore, seconded by Councilor Kelly. Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passed. At this time, I'd like to invite any members of the public who'd like to please come and address the council on any issues on the agenda tonight. There will be another public comment period shortly thereafter. Seeing none.
Resolved in accordance with the request, therefore the Common Council approves the 2020 street drive.
Yes.
Counselor Kelly,
Yes.
Counselor DeDominicis,
Yes.
Counselor McFarland,
No.
Counselor Moore.
Yes.
Resolved in accordance with the request, therefore the common council approves that the mayor be authorized to sign a lease agreement with East
That's good.
Coast.
I make a motion to move items 2B through G.
Moved by Counselor Barbell, second by Counselor McFarland. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Discussion on the items themselves. You folks missed the pre-meeting where they discussed in more detail the various proposals. Seeing no further discussion, roll call?
Counselor Barbell,
Yes.
Counselor Kelly,
Yes.
Counselor DeDominicis,
Yes.
Counselor McFarland,
Yes.
Counselor Moore.
Yes.
I'd like to hand down the appointment of James Welch, member of the Landlord Tenant Advisory Committee, established by council resolution on January 30th, 2020. Roll call?
Counselor Barbell,
Yes.
Counselor Kelly,
Yes.
Counselor DeDominicis,
Yes.
Counselor McFarland,
Yes.
Counselor Moore.
Yes.
Approval of economic development grants for winning applications to the downtown grant program, DGP. Resolved, in accordance with the request, therefore the common council approves grants from the DGP, a constituent project of the larger downtown revitalization initiative, DRI, to the following DGP applicants and projects in the respective amounts listed in the following table. Sean Klisch, 14 Margaret Street, $100,000. Kyle Dyer, Dean Jolly, 14 Margaret Street, $100,000. These awards are made in accordance with the findings of the DGP Grant Review Committee set forth in a memo submitted by Ethan Vincent, DRI Project Coordinator. A copy of said memo is ordered made a part of the minutes of this meeting. Also, these awards are made pursuant and subject to the terms and conditions of the DGP, including any ancillary and grant documents.
Moved by Counselor DeDominicis, second by Counselor McFarland. Discussion.
I understand that one of these grants is to build a brewery downtown. And I couldn't be happier about that. Right now, we have to drive to the nearest brewery, so now we can walk. So thank you so much, gentlemen, for your effort.
Doing our part.
Well, you kind of are too, because as you know, there's some grand plans to really build the number of households living downtown on a permanent basis year-round up substantially. And not only, I think, are you providing greater attractions to improve quality of life downtown, but I think it's a very astute business move for you to think in those longer terms as well. So
Yeah,
good for you.
as far as the, the business model itself, the brewery, you, literally like, almost can't fathom the amount, when I saw this project, we had already been thinking about it, and one of the major points you have to hit was tourism. And people seek out just that key term on a Google, a Yelp, a Facebook search for a brewery in this area. People plan entire summer vacations on just going to find them. Having one in the heart of downtown is going to increase people visiting Plattsburgh.
It will, and James Fallow is the Atlantic writer, wrote an article I've shared with many of the councilors before, the 10 things that really differentiate an up-and-coming small town. One of those 10 things are downtown microbreweries. It doesn't create it, it's part of the bigger picture that people insist when we start thinking of quality of life in our downtown. So I think everything you said about it's an up-and-coming thing, it's gonna be great for tourism, is absolutely correct.
We are excited as you guys.
Will you still have like Grim and like Zero Gravity and stuff on tap, or?
Yeah, we're basically, what we're looking to do is, in the storage space that was discussed, we're gonna start with maybe 3 to 4 of our own house beers, but still bring in an eclectic mix from around New York State as well as the US and sometimes overseas. We will still differentiate ourselves with, a plethora of beer. It's just now, we can also say that this was brewed 15 feet from where you're sitting, or, 30 feet from where you're sitting.
I think we got caught up in the excitement. Any further questions? No. Roll call.
Council Barlow?
Yes.
Council Kelly?
Yes.
Council DeDominicis?
Yes.
Council McFarland?
Yes.
Council Moore?
Yes.
Resolved in accordance with the request, therefore, the common council approves A.E. Sheehan contract to close a section of Cumberland Avenue and have a short-term detour for installation of sewer improvements. The anticipated road closure is requested from Wednesday, March 11th through Friday, March 13th, 2020, from 6 a.m. to 4 p.m. daily.
Moved by Councilman McFarland, second by Councilor Barbell. Discussion?
I assume the detour will be down Saley Avenue?
Yeah.
Seems like
and,
it's-
over Durant, I think.
Oh, so it's just a small section of Cumberland Avenue.
It's a real small section.
Okay.
Think they
And I'll
charge
say
a
way
toll?
over Durant back to
What?
Plan to charge a toll?
That's an idea.
Got yourself some beer on.
I don't know if the city and state pays it like that.
Any further discussion? Roll call.
Council Barbell? Council Kelly?
Yes.
Council DeDominicis?
Yes.
Council McFarland?
Yeah.
Council Moore?
Yes.
Move follow request of this common resolutions for initial consideration.
Yes, Mayor, I have a resolution for initial consideration that I would like to read. And I will provide the members of the council with copies after this meeting. It states, whereas the city of Plattsburgh proposed a concept in 2015 to secure a first-round downtown revitalization grant from the state of New York. Whereas the city was awarded the DRI grant in May of 2016 based on a concept to build retail and residential space in the Durkee Street lot, along with partial access to the Saranac River, a green corridor, and a sculpture and performance park. Whereas Mayor Calnon appointed a local planning commission in 2016 to develop a plan from the initial concept with the assistance of consultants appointed by Empire State Development. Whereas the local planning commission met for 6 months, conducted numerous public forums, and contacted a number of developers. Whereas the local planning commission concluded that the market could not bear 50,000 square feet of new commercial space downtown, and instead recommended a market rate residential emphasis, an arts walk and sculpture garden in the West Telecom Park across Durkee Street, and numerous other modifications to make the original plan workable and marketable. Whereas the city addressed the failure of the original concept to propose alternative parking to replace the space that could not be accommodated economically within the Durkee parking lot footprint, and developed a one-for-one parking replacement plan through the expansion of new lots downtown funded by a different state grant. Whereas, with the help of a consultant contracted by the Empire State Development Organization, the city issued a request for proposals to develop the Durkee Street property in ways not inconsistent with the plan approved by Empire State Development. Whereas, one developer, a company based in Cohoes with similar developments in other North Country and Central New York communities, responded with a proposal. Whereas Prime Plattsburgh agreed to develop the land in return for incentives provided by Empire State Development, a pilot from the Industrial Development Agency, and land granted by the city to create a mixed-use residential and commercial facility, a green space and extension of the Arts Walk, expanded access to the Saranac River Trail, ample parking for all the needs of residents and patrons, and 60 parking spots available for the public on the Durkee footprint. Whereas each of these various steps were endorsed unanimously by the respective common councils over the years, whereas the negotiations between the funding agency and the developer resulted in a contract between Empire State Development and Prime Plattsburgh. And whereas Prime Plattsburgh is also negotiating a pilot agreement directly with the county IDA that will ensure there is no net loss of property tax revenue to the city, school district, and county in any year, and an additional gain of $2,746,900 over 18 years to the school district, the city of Plattsburgh, and Clinton County. Therefore, be it resolved that the Common Council continues to support the original submission of the DRI concept. The plan is modified by the local planning committee and the consultants appointed by Empire State Development, the granting of a contract to Prime Plattsburgh, and the participants in 102 public forums, consultants, and previous common councils, and the work performed in incorporating public comment and generating the generic environmental impact statement subject to any additional environmental review, in the firm belief that the Durkee Street project, the Arts Walk, the expanded Saranac River Trail, the green space, the downtown grants program, the developments at the harbor side, the parking plan for one-to-one parking replacement, and the signage and branding project for downtown Plattsburgh are all projects in the best interest of the residents of Plattsburgh and the city's ability to continue to garner economic development funds from the state of New York to enhance the quality of life in the city of Plattsburgh. Thank you.
For initial consideration?
Yes, yes, thank you.
Any other items for initial consideration?
I just had a couple of things. One, we're going to be presenting a new local law next week for the water rates, set new water rates, so that'll have to go through a public hearing process, but we'll be presenting it next week. And the other thing I just wanted to comment on is I am very excited about seeing some of the changes that are going to be happening in our downtown. I know not everybody was here for the earlier part of the meeting, but some of these things that we had just been dreaming about are now going to be becoming realities. And boy, it sure looks good. I'm very pleased.
Is that a resolution?
No.
Any other new business or council reports?
Yes, I'd like to introduce local law P1 entitled Levy and Collection of Taxes, Board of Assessment Review. And there will be a public hearing held on Thursday, 3/19/20 at 5:00 p.m. Thank you. And I think the council's been given copies of that.
So for the minutes, any councilors that's not present, that can email the copy of the legal law.
Any other new business or council report at this time? Seeing none, this is now an opportunity for the members of the public to please come address the council. Right up here.
I was like, oh.
Good evening, my name is Sue LeBlanc DeRocher. I'm a resident in Plattsburgh, and I grew up in this area, so this is exciting for me to be part of. I represent Plattsburgh Sunrise Rotary, and I'm sure you've heard of us. And of course, summer's coming quickly, it's getting warmer out, so we're making plans for the Mayor's Cup Festival and Regatta. The reason why it is going to be July 11th, the reason why it is July 11th is because the regatta race, their schedule dictates as to the date of our festival. So it will not be the same weekend as the 4th of July, which we have had in the past. It's combined with the city, and we're so grateful to have that partnership with the city. But since it's July 11th, we have to change things around a little bit. So I'm here tonight to ask your thoughts and your opinions and your permission to change the location of Mayor's Cup Festival. The city has so many beautiful things to offer, and you have a beautiful lake that people don't even realize is a beautiful city beach. I grew up here, and I was taught to swim at the city beach a few years ago. And we just thought it'd be an opportunity for people to see what else the city has to offer. So we do understand that as a resident of the city, we get in for free. And I believe the town of Plattsburgh residents get in for free as well. But there's a lot of people out there that don't have the opportunity. So I am here tonight to ask your thoughts and your permission to offer one free day for people to get into the city beach that would normally have to pay for a vehicle to get in. This is our biggest, Sunrise Rotary, of course, is a fundraising organization, and normally Mayor's Cup Festival is our biggest fundraiser. So with that said, if we are able to use the beach for free that day for people to get in, we already have talked to a few people about offering kayak tours. We already have that kind of put together. We also have another organization that's offering to do children's kayaking tours at the city beach, or training and safety on the water. We have quite a few different things that we're offering. We have a 5K race. We'll have local vendors, local food vendors, and we also have some organizations and businesses that would like to offer kids free crafts. And just for families, of course, you hear so much about the kids that don't always get a chance to experience things in our area. This would be an opportunity for their families to go there for the day. It'd be free, they'd pay for their own food, but they would see what the lake has to offer. And as you know, we are part of the city options with Wilcox Dock, the pavilion there, Samuel D. Champlain, the gazebo there. We do the wall art in the city. We've done a few of those, and we're continuing to do that. We really want to partner with the city, and actually we are looking for new projects that would be on the water, near the water, for people to take advantage of it.
Mr. Rocha, just so I'm clear, I guess point of privilege, can I ask a question? Are you talking about moving the entire Mayor's Cup to the beach, or just having an event at the beach as part of Mayor's Cup?
We were thinking about moving the actual festival. Of course, the regatta starts at the marina, and so really that location does not change. And of course, Dr. Sheldon is the coordinator of that race, so that would always be there. But to move the whole festival to the city beach.
Oh, okay.
So that's the thought. That's the hope.
Perfect. I love it. I think it's a great idea.
Thank you. I guess.
I think that Mr. Miller's office had run the revenue figures for what a typical day's revenue is.
I don't have that off the top of my head, but I can certainly get it from the council.
Do you have it? 7/13, probably the closest day to the date you proposed, was the revenue was $3,747 on that day.
That's what was done last year at the beach? Oh, okay. And July 11th?
An average day of summer, there's some weekend after, a couple weekends after that was twice as high.
Now, July 11th, that's a
Because of the water
Saturday?
It's a Saturday, yes.
Okay. And that would make the Mayor's Cup, because Mayor's Cup lasts more than one day usually, right?
It has been in the past, but really we're trying to get it to just be one day. And our thoughts are, if the race starts at 5 or 8 o'clock in the morning, the 5K, and also the kayaking tour would start at the same time. We think the latest we would probably ask to would be till 3 o'clock in the afternoon, because we do have the regatta race awards at the Naked Turtle around 6 o'clock. So it'd probably be not a full day for families, but again, when it gets so warm out, the kids and families can go right in the water, where it's just kind of a challenge to do that right during the park.
As far as mixing the two, it sounds like you could actually incorporate, an off-site event, advertise it as like, a family affair, and still leave ample amount of time to come down and see whatever live act the city has scheduled that evening. What's going on that weekend, people can still mix and match
They're
their
not
day.
locked into the day.
Yeah.
And that's a really valid point, because again, there's so much going on, throughout the summertime, and it'd be great if they got done there,
went home, went downtown, had a nice drink or two, some nice food. I'm just saying.
Are you talking about having like bands and stuff also down over at the beach and stuff?
We had a conversation with Skippy last week, and he's been very energetic, and we're gonna meet with him hopefully next week if possible, to talk about what bands he would feel that'd be a good fit for this event. And what else we have? Also, I know that you have the Costa Fishing League Worldwide Series, fishing series, and I think it's the way station that's gonna be held next at the marina, correct? So it'd be nice if we can get the information out to their families. If their families are gonna be here during that time frame, they could enjoy the lake in a different way, so.
Do you think it might be possible to find a sponsor to subsidize the admissions at the beach that weekend? It's roughly $3,000. Do you think we could find someone who might be willing to make up that difference of $3,000? I'm thinking of a similar example where if you went to a women's hockey game at Plattsburgh State, it was funded by the U First Federal Credit Union, which was really, really nice of them to do that, of course. Would it be possible to find a similar benefactor for the city?
I'm sure it would be. Again, we are a fundraiser, this is one of our biggest fundraisers of the year. So the more we can look at sponsors for our group to make,
The overall.
give back, correct.
Yeah.
So I'm sure it's something possible, you know, and even if you know, the council felt that even if it could be split down the middle, you know, that it's $3,000, if it's possible to maybe do half of that. Again, we appreciate any consideration you think about this, and so. Is
Okay.
that good?
Thank you.
Thank you so much for your time, really appreciate it.
Thank you.
I like
To
it.
clarify for you all, it wasn't anticipated, our major events this year will be on the July 4th weekend, because obviously we have a high expectation of fireworks and all that kind of stuff. It wasn't anticipated to do musical events downtown the following weekend as well, we just don't have the budget, but Rotary, Sunrise Rotary understands that.
I like it. I think it's a great idea.
I presume you need some time to reach a decision point, put together a resolution, all that kind of stuff, or did you plan to do that tonight?
We should also include Elizabeth in it, I think.
Agreed.
But we can discuss it over the next week and put it on the agenda.
next week.
Any other members of the public who please come forward, or any issue of mutual concern? Seeing none, do I have a motion to adjourn? Moved by Councilman Carlin, second by Councilman Moore, roll call.
Counselor Barville?
Yes.
Counselor Kelly?
Yes.
Counselor Diamondis?
Yes.
Counselor Moore?
Yes.
Oh, sorry, Councilman Farland?
Sure, yeah.
Thank you, folks.
Thank you, Mayor. Good meeting, good meeting.
Careful now.
Right in the stomach.
Sure will. Yeah. Thank you. I've got plenty for myself.